Hello everyone, my name is Kevin. This is my tutorial on how to draw lightning from Final Fantasy XIII. Now, this is the first time that I'm actually doing commentary over my own drawing, so I'm not that great at it, but I'll improve. So for this part of the drawing, I'm using HB graphite. What I'm using right now is woodless graphite. You can find links to everything that I use down below. Just basically start with a circle, build guidelines and basic features around that. And using woodless graphite is just a bit easier than using a regular pencil, and it just goes by a lot faster when you're drawing. You want to clean up your lines whenever you can, and I'm just using a kneaded eraser for that. Here you see me using an HB pencil, just redefining my features, starting with the eyes. I always like to start with the left eye and then work on the right eye so that I can see both eyes. If you're left-handed, you might want to start with the right eye and move on to the left one. After you're done with the eyes, move down to the nose and the mouth. And then from there, I like to go up to the hair and redefine it. Some people like to draw the whole face and the chin and the neck and everything, but after getting the features done, I like to move up to the hair, and then I finish up the jawline and the neck later on. Tips with hair: just try to follow the curvature of the face and the flow of the hair. So don't just scribble lines in, try to make them move like strands of hair actually move. Give them direction. And then after all that, go ahead and define the rest of their hair and her clothing. Here I'm adding some basic shading with HB graphite, woodless graphite again. And I'm using a blending stump there to smooth out my shading. Now you just want to rework your details again, except this time add some shading instead of just adding lines. So again, I'm moving from left to right. And don't worry too much about erasing and getting everything perfect right now. This isn't the final stage of shading. You just want to get a basic layer of shading down that you can work with later on. Moving down to the nose now. And you want to blend every once in a while to keep your shading from becoming too messy. And shade in the lips. Don't forget the little shadow under the nose. And define her jawline now. You might have to rework the jawline again later, because sometimes it's kind of hard to get it perfect before you draw everything else in, like her neck and her hair. And just some quick shading for the neck here. Just make sure it's darker than the face, and give it a bit of a shadow underneath her chin. And here I just used a kneaded eraser to define her bangs a little bit. And now you can start shading her bangs and defining them some more with an HB pencil. It's really important that you get that shadow that her hair is casting on her face. And every now and again I switch to the woodless graphite for larger areas of shading. So again, you're just following the flow of the hair, and make sure you know which sections of hair are overlapping, which sections of hair. Just make sure you have separate sections that are overlapping instead of just scribbling in lines and not paying attention to that, because it kind of adds to the drawing. And here I just decided to work on the right side of your hair first. That's just personal preference. You can do whatever you want, whichever works for you. And if you find the original image that this is based off of that I use as reference, you notice that I simplified the hair a lot. So feel free to do that. You don't have to draw every single little detail. Just make it look nice, make it look like hair, and you're golden. Here I switched back to the woodless graphite just to finish off your hair. The main difference between the woodless and the pencil is that the pencil is a lot darker, is a lot richer. So sometimes you can't get your shading as dark if all you use is woodless graphite. So you might want to switch back and forth between that and the pencil. And here I've moved right back out to her bangs again. This was a real pain to draw, I have to admit, but it's worth it once you get it down. Just make sure you know which strands of hair are overlapping. And you want to be drawing the shadow that the hair is casting as you're drawing the bangs as well. So pay attention to that shadow on her face. Here I'm just defining her cheek and her neck. And I decided to work on the hair's outlining first here, which made it a lot easier later on. And now I'm just filling in the hair. And I switched to the woodless graphite again, because that was a lot quicker for this step. I'm just finishing up the rest of her hair. And you notice that piece of paper that my hand is resting on. If you tend to smear your drawings a lot, you might want to do that as well. Just get a small piece of scrap paper and rest your hand over it instead of resting it on the drawing. Now I'm finishing up her, adding some more detail to her clothing. Just some quick rough shading there, and then blending it in. the blending stump. And now it's time for the background. Using HB woodless graphite again to roughly shade in the background on the left side, then using a blending stump to blend that in. Then doing about the same thing on the right side. And now I unmounted the drawing so that I get more control over it. I switched pencils here. I'm using a 2H pencil because it lets you make really fine lines, a lot finer than HB pencils do. They're not as dark as HB, but they're pretty good for details. So I'm just basically going over my details again, starting with the right eye. And you want to try to smooth out your shading as much as you can here. Adding details to the left eye, as well as the bangs. And fixing up her cheeks a bit. And blending out the nose some more before adding more detail to it. And now it's time to work on the mouth. You want to make sure you get those highlights around the mouth using an eraser. That'll help make it look a bit more realistic. Now just fixing up her chin a bit. And now back to her hair. Now you can see I'm just following the same lines I used before, except I'm adding more strands of hair. And it just looks a lot better that way, as you can see. And time to finish up the background on the right side. This time I'm using a 2B woodless graphite, piece of woodless graphite, to finish up the background. And back to the 2H pencil for the rest of the hair. And there's a 2B pencil for the background on the left side. You can tell the shading's a lot darker than HB. 2B woodless graphite. Just some more rough shading before blending it in with the blending stump. Now I'm just using 2H again to finish up her hair. And if your shading looks a bit too rough, use a blending stump to smooth it out. And pretty much for the rest of this drawing, I used a 2B pencil just for some quick shading. And that's pretty much it for this drawing, guys. This took me about 2.5 hours. I could have spent more time with it, but that would have meant more video editing time, and right now that doesn't seem worth it. But if you want longer videos or if you want more detailed drawings, let me know. And if you have any other suggestions for these tutorials, let me know. And thanks for watching. See you next time.